Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to please think about the lives that have been lost to war, occupation, militarization, oil, and money. Thank you. In 2012, in my second year in undergrad at the University of Haifa, I was sitting in a class called The Portraits of Israel. And the professor screened an image of a Palestinian living room with pictures of the martyrs or the shuhada of the 2000 uprising hung up on the walls. And he said that we, Palestinian citizens of Israel, idealize terrorists and commemorate their deaths. I was the only Palestinian in class, and I kept silent. Every time I remember that incident, I feel my heart dropping. How did I, the self-proclaimed leader, sit there as my professor proceeded with his uninformed, bigoted political attack on something I hold so close to my heart? My name is Amal Aun. I'm a Palestinian citizen of Israel and a recent graduate of Cornell University with a master's in public affairs with a concentration on human rights. And I'm here to share with you the story of how and why I created Speak Up, the first Arab public speaking institute in Israel. My parents, Nasser and Wafa, are both educators. They value knowledge and have instilled that value in my siblings and me from a very young age. My dad was a history teacher, and my mom was one of the first females in her entire village to receive university education. We frequently had heated debates at the house, from where to go out for dinner to current events. I was very outspoken in my school and sought leadership positions whenever possible. I participated in Model UN conferences and condemned and declared many mock resolutions. But then I got to university, the first place where Palestinians and Israelis actually and intensively meet for the very first time. And I felt completely silent. I felt like I was out of place, like I'm not supposed to speak up or stand up for what I believe in. I felt disempowered. This could have been the result of my young age compared to my Israeli peers who come to university after 3 years of army service, or the fact that I was officially required to speak in a language that was not mine, which was Hebrew and no longer Arabic. Those fundamental changes were coupled with the challenge of not being able to implement my communication skills in my daily life. Statistics of Palestinian students on Israeli campuses echo those feelings. Less than 30%, and this is not moving, sorry. Less than 30% of Palestinian students on Israeli campuses feel equal to their Jewish peers. Over 66% of them feel that language has created a significant barrier in their academic accomplishment. And over 70% of them, of us, feel that presentation in classes or public speaking in classes was one of the main obstacles in their careers. So we rarely speak in classes. We rarely express any sort of dissent or resistance during our time on campuses. I realized that our silence, it's not neutral. It harms our very existence, as it maintains a status quo of compliance, one-sided narratives, and dangerous hierarchies of power and oppression. So seeing those challenges and feeling them firsthand, I decided to create the first Arab Public Speaking Institute in Israel. I went to local organizations and started volunteering my time and experience with building the capacity of the organizations. After a year of experimenting with different training syllabi and researching the needs of our children, we now have training courses that start from as early as 9 years old for our children to talk about leadership, communication, media, and debate, to ask questions. And we grow up with them and work with them on analysis, research, and refutation. And yes, we even go with them to university, help them with their class presentations, and even job negotiations. So while we have different training approaches for our students, one thing that remains constant is always developing our questions, always asking why. As a simple yet very relevant example, who recognizes this? What is it called, Basil?
Apartheid wall.
Apartheid wall. So some people call this the apartheid wall. Palestinians, international NGOs, and media outlets. Others call it the security fence. Let's take a minute to think about the implications of security versus apartheid, or the word fence versus wall. What do they mean and why were they chosen? Every decision is with intent. So we work with our students on thinking about the why of everything. This way we develop within them the ability and the understanding to be held accountable for our actions, to think about our beliefs, our actions, our decisions, our opinions, and this way working towards being held accountable towards what we believe in. So why do we hold this approach? We believe that thinking about that approach helps us create a more empowered future generation. A generation that is able to stand up and speak against injustice, extremism, and definitely horrible professors. In George Orwell's famous novel, 1984, he says, if our thought can corrupt language, then language can also corrupt our thought. To me, that means that I need to be mindful of my words. That means that I need to be kind to myself and my words to always be true to others. And finally, for you, I leave you with one plea. To only say what you mean, and always mean what you say. Thank you very much. Yes, any questions?